Hey there, it's me Liz, and I think that I've actually solved my background noise recording problem. I can't say that that's going to mean that there's going to be a lot more voiceovers. Like, for example, I've recorded this 4 times, and my voice is getting tired at this point, but I did have a lot of things to say about this particular video. So the original inspiration from this video comes from the fact that my apartment has a lot of windows and I like stained glass, but I wanted to try and make my own sort of stained glass thing, and I like to work on a budget. And so what I did is I went on Pinterest and I just searched to see if I could find a recipe for glass paint, and like I also searched like kid Suncatcher craft ideas, and I came across one particular recipe that suggested that you use clear Elmer's glue and food coloring. Well, I didn't think that food coloring would be very light fast, so I decided I was going to try it with ink, and actually the ink worked out really well. What I used for the lines, the outlines, is actually black fabric paint, because black fabric paint actually creates like like stands up a little bit. It's not flat to the surface, and so it would create little like wells. And so it reminds me of, I don't know if you guys know about these, but like those kits that you can buy where you can paint the sun catchers, and they're just like these plastic things with the raised black lines. It's kind of like what I was going for here, to try and make this pretty easy and be able to keep the colors separate. Anyway, so I want to talk about what worked really well and what did not work so well, but I also want to talk about the last really important piece of this, is like the glass and the frame. The glass and the frame are things that I already had laying around, like old picture frames, and I also did go buy some later from the thrift store. This is a very inexpensive craft. The most expensive thing about this craft was the ink, and I already had the ink laying around. So other than that, the only thing I actually had to buy that I didn't have on hand was the Elmer's glue, which turned out to be less than $2. So this can be a very affordable craft for you if you want to try it. Now, the tips that I want to pass on to you that might be very helpful for you are, it worked really well with ink, it worked really well with glitter. It did not work well with acrylic paint. Now, you do see me use a little bit of acrylic paint in this particular video, but it is mostly clear glue in that part. Whenever you up the ratio of acrylic paint to the clear glue, what you're going to get is like bubbling and cracking, which is something that I got on a future project that I had done as a gift. And so I just wanted to make that clear, because in this video it looks like it all turns out well, and it does in this video, but in other videos the acrylic paint itself did not do well. However, acrylic ink has. So whether you want to use food coloring or you want to use ink or acrylic ink, you can, but I would avoid acrylic paints because it just did not turn out well for me. Now, as for the subject matter, I'm sure that we can all agree that that cat was not the best cat in the world. But, you know, we all make mistakes sometimes, and I just wanted to leave that part of sketching in there to let you guys know that, like, a lot of times my first idea is not my best idea, and sometimes my second, my third, my fourth are not even good ideas. And in fact, when I started to do this, I was kind of meh about it, because I kind of jumped to drawing flowers or botanical things in general when I don't know what else to draw. And daisies are especially like that for me. So I didn't necessarily feel like I was doing anything special. with this particular thing, but the way it turned out and the way it looks in my window just makes me so happy. One thing that I want to talk about a little bit is I did do a little bit of research about daisies, and I just want to do a real quick PSA. This is not very in-depth research about daisies. I would do more research on daisies yourself if you want to know more, but these are just kind of fun facts that I found on Wikipedia and similar sites about daisies and information that I found. So the name daisy has a history, and it comes from Old English. And I'm going to go ahead and put the phrase on the screen, and I'm not going to attempt to try and say it because that'll just be bad. But it means day's eye, which I think is really neat. This is a common term that has a very broad meaning that can be applied to a lot of similar but very different plants. So it's important to understand that the term daisy doesn't apply to any specific one plant. It applies to a lot of different plants that look very, very much alike. And they'll all have different properties. So it is a kind of astrolabe or compound flower, which means that what it is what looks like one flower is actually a cluster of much smaller flowers. And there are actually two different kinds of flowers that make up a daisy. The flowers around the edges are that look like petals are called ray flowers, and then the center parts are made up of something called disc flowers. And the flowers that we call daisies are actually very closely related to asters and sunflowers as well. Daisy varieties can actually be found all over the world, and in fact are found on every continent but Antarctica. They do prefer drier climates in general, including hot, semi-hot, or cold desert climates. There is a really interesting study or concept called florography, or the language of flowers, and Wikipedia describes it as a cryptological communication through the use or arrangement of flowers. I would rephrase this and basically say it's coded messages sent through carefully arranged flower bouquets or flower gifts, plant gifts in general. It's important to understand that the idea of meaning behind plants or symbolism to plants is ancient and worldwide, but specifically the language of flowers is especially considered a Victorian England or a US 19th century concept. It's something that was very popular then, but it has a much longer history and a much more varied history than just that. I found a lot of different information as to what the actual symbolism or meaning behind daisies is, and some of the things that I found were innocence, loyal love, I'll never tell, gentleness, purity, patience, simplicity, and humility, which I think are all things that really make sense for the daisy just because of the colors and how they kind of define flowers. And so it's kind of nice, like, that those are the concepts that are attributed to them. Other interesting facts that I'd like to study more are it turns out that at least one variety of daisies are edible, probably a lot more. I do recommend doing a lot more research before you ingest plants that you find outside that you don't know where they came from. But even WebMD says that it does have some medicinal uses in tea to treat inflammation type ailments. Now, again, I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but modern medicine has its place. But so does homeopathic, and maybe a healthy combination of the two is a great way to do it. A nice way to balance it out. So, might be cool to find some safe variety of daisy and try it as a tea and see if it helps with your, cough or bronchitis, because that's apparently one of the things it's good for. I don't know. Anyway, those are just things that I'd like to, research more and see what kind of evidence we have to prove those things, and maybe see what's safe and what's not, and maybe try eating a daisy. I don't know. I would love to hear what you think about daisies, or what they make you think of, or maybe you have a happy memory of making daisy chains with a cousin or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'd love to hear your daisy stories, and maybe, what you associate daisies with. So please comment. Also, like and subscribe, and that way you'll be here for the next video, which may or may not have a very long voiceover. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye!